What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some new news for the man who erased his name. And this is actually quite interesting. This is like officially new stuff. I don't ever remember seeing any of this, but I think this gives us a pretty cool insight as to how they make their games over there at RGG Studios, and also just the kind of game this is going to be. I think you can read this and think about it in a very negative light. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. In fact, I'm going to, because I just think they do a really good job. Okay, I think they've done a really good job for a long time, and obviously leadership and stuff, like there has been some moves there, but I think the man who erased his name is going to be awesome. I think Infinite Wealth is going to absolutely crush it. I think they're going to do a great job, so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But let's read some of the new points that we learned about this game. This comes from Okami Games, who this was an interview that was done. He kind of just summarized it. So this game, The Man Who Erased His Name, was initially planned as DLC for Infinite Wealth, but RGG felt it was engaging enough for its own game. The whole game was made in 6 months. RGG only has one team, which I did not know that, but each person does a specific task for every game. This is how they work so efficiently and are releasing 3 games in the space of a year. If I'm in charge of a certain mini-game for one title, I'll also be in charge of it for another title. Story fills in the gaps between 6 and Infinite Wealth. Kiryu has gone into hiding and faked his own death to protect his family. That's not news, but okay. RGG feels their games capture the moment and pick their release dates carefully. We want our games to be out there at the moment they are relevant. Okay, so those last two there, not necessarily news. I guess I want to take some jabs at those ones. We knew when the game would be taking place, and we also knew what the game was about. If you didn't know that, then you just haven't been like looking at it at all. So I guess that's what it is. And then the capture the moment thing, I don't know, like, do they? They pick the release dates carefully. They want their games to be out there at the moment they are relevant. So cultural relevance, I don't know. I've never felt that with any of the others, but to be fair, as I've said many times, I've played 7 of them in the span of like 5 months. I played it from February to like August, just played all of them in a row. So I didn't play them when they came out. So maybe they did have some relevance at the time that I just wasn't really like focused on, and that they lost that somehow in 2023. I don't know. So I don't really necessarily agree with that, but it is what it is. The rest of it, incredibly interesting. So what I was hinting at in the beginning of the video, that you could read it negatively, I do think it's fair, and I'm going to keep it in the back of my head. If the game is a disaster, which honestly, I will be shocked. My jaw will hit the floor if this game, say, is just a complete like failure in terms of quality. But those first 2 points, that it was going to be DLC, but they felt they could do, that really reminds me of Assassin's Creed Mirage. In fact, that is literally the blueprint for how Assassin's Creed Mirage came to be, right? It was going to be DLC. They thought it had potential. They needed to add more to it, obviously, and they did, and it became Assassin's Creed Mirage. So that just feels familiar. Now, I liked Mirage. I think they actually did a good job with it, and I felt like it was its own standalone game, and I didn't mind a game being, 10, 15, 20 hours instead of 60, 70, 80 hours. The whole game was made in 6 months. That's another one where if this game feels rushed, if this game feels like they're skipping things, or, we've actually already talked about it, there are a couple signs that maybe, like the English translation or the English voiceover, actually, right? Like, that's not in the game at launch. That's in the game afterwards. And I don't care. Because I'm not going to play the game in English. I think it's almost a crime to play these games in English, but that's just my opinion. It's a controversial one, but it's my opinion. I don't care. However, that is a sign to me that the game, like, maybe it should have been delayed another month or so, right? So you could get that, because that just seems like something you want to have in the game when it comes out. So, again, we've talked about that. I don't mind it, as I've said, but the whole 6 months thing, that and it being DLC is going to be in my head. If the game's fine, I don't care. If the game's bad, or it's disappointing, or it's just not like full doesn't have to mean, by the way, 60 hours. Full is in just, it feels like a full experience, a complete experience. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to remember that. And then those middle 2 points, that is extremely cool. Well, number one, I did not know how the studio operated, so it's kind of cool to like peek behind the curtain there, that I didn't even know they only had one studio, right? I see it from a very outside perspective of, these guys are on a tear, and they release games very, very quickly. Maybe like the fastest. I'm sure there's other studios that could maybe beat them, but they release games extremely fast, some of the fastest in the industry. So to learn that they do like one person does the same. That's super cool, right? So I mean, they use the example of like the mini game. So I guess that makes a lot of sense, right? So like if you're in charge of the world building or whatever, even like from a visual perspective, that's all you do. You do it in this game, and then you just move right over and you do it in Infinite Wealth. Nothing changes. You're doing the exact same thing. That's cool. That actually, I feel like that very much streamlines it. I don't even know why you wouldn't do it like that. So it's cool to kind of learn about that one. And hey, you know what? Do what you're doing because it's obviously working. Don't change it, right? Because it's working the way you intended it to. So there we go. I'm getting very excited. This game obviously comes out on Wednesday. I'm going to be playing it day one, and I just can't freaking wait. And I hope, again, like I don't care if I don't want it to be 50, 60 hours. Give me a 10, 15, 20 hour even if it is 10, which I don't think it would be, but 15, 20 hours. You do the side stuff, it can get you higher up into hours played. That's totally fine with me. I think they can do a really great job. I'm really looking forward to this game. We got to see our man Kiryu Kazuma come back. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.